It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome in to Two Guys, One Pod, Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Porter, joined by my co-host, Justin. Justin, we reviewed the head coaching changes on our last episode. Right now, coming up, we have got the offensive coordinator changes. You ready to get into it? How you doing?
Listen, I'm fantastic. And there's a couple things that people need to understand about what's going on here. First of all, we're getting closer and closer by the day to you finally acknowledging me by my God-given title, the legendary ball knower, a.k.a. your favorite podcaster, a.k.a. Chev90, a.k.a. co-host of the Dynasty Pulse and co-founder and co-host of this finest of the fine establishment that you are listening to right now. So, we're going to talk about some offensive coordinator changes. A lot of these guys we're going to highlight now. Some of these guys are going to be some of the hottest names in all of the NFL coaching cycle going into 2026. So get familiar with these guys now. If you're listening, obviously you are a degenerate of some sort, just like us. So welcome home, and I hope you enjoy.
Yes. Without further ado, we can go ahead and get into it. And there will be some of these that we definitely spend more time on than others because it's pretty easy to tell that they will have a little bit of a reduced responsibility. Much like Delkin Doyle, if you don't know his name, he was priorly Denver tight ends coach from 2023 to 2024. He is the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. We fully expect Ben Johnson to have full control of that offense and play calling responsibilities. We can move on. Tommy Rees for Cleveland. Pass game specialist, coach, and a tight ends coach in a prior life. He signs with Cleveland. We expect Stefanski to call plays. Do you expect anything different?
No, I mean, just, another year, another potential boom for one Chief David Njoku.
Exactly. And next we have John Morton. A little bit more discussion around this man. He signs as the Detroit offensive coordinator, the Broncos pass game coordinator last year. Now, this is a guy who was in the building, I believe, as the tight ends coach for Detroit 2 years ago. And let's go ahead and start the discussion there. Do you expect him to change or alter the offense at all that Ben Johnson is leaving behind?
Yes. I mean, it's going to have its own. So from a continuity standpoint, they'll probably have a lot of the same language in their playbook. Just the philosophy might change a little bit about how things are operating. We saw a shift last year with Ben Johnson as far as how he, made Jameson Williams a key point to the offense in spots. He's still not getting the volume. That's the biggest question mark for me, is seeing how he's going to further integrate Jameson Williams into the offense. Does that mean less targets for Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and Sam Laporta's volume starts to rise again? Or does that mean that there's more of a delineated target share directed to Jameson Williams, who showed you that he is more than just a gadget player? So I do have some interesting questions. The way that they used Marvin Mims in Denver has me licking my chops, no diddy, for a guy like Jameson Williams, because he is the archetype of that type of receiver that can also do real receiver things, which Marvin Mims can too, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I'm excited for this. I think philosophically it might change some, but the big thing is you're not having guys come in and learn a ton of different language or, changing out roles very much. That's what I anticipate.
I'm glad you brought up Sam Laporta because I think he might be the biggest winner here. A guy who is familiar with Laporta, who saw him have his biggest season. I think the biggest beneficiary is the tight end in Detroit. I I am of the opinion that other people are of the opinion that Sam Laporta declined or that he was not good enough to earn targets in this offense last year. This offense was fantastic. They led the league in scoring touchdowns. We mentioned that last episode with Ben Johnson leaving town. If you look in comparing that to his wide receiver, or not wide receiver, but his tight end one season in 2023, he was actually more productive and more efficient with on a per target basis and on a per reception basis in 2024 than he was in 2023. He just wasn't getting the opportunities because the offense was so good all across the board. Having a guy who knows how great and what I especially like about Sam Laporta is that he showed up when it mattered most. He gave you tight end 3, tight end 6, and tight end 7 in the fantasy playoffs. So showing me at least that this was not a decline in play. This wasn't a decrease in talent. This wasn't that was a spike year. No, Sam Laporta is really good. And given opportunity, I think he has tight end 1 in his range of outcomes again. And like I said, having an offensive guy come in who has the experience with Laporta, who has the tight end coach background that he does, I love that for Sam Laporta. I think that could be a major shift moving into 2025.
I mean, hopefully, here's the deal. Hopefully it normalizes. One thing that we were spot on about is the touchdown efficiency for Sam Laporta in 2023 was not going to be sticky. It turned out that the touchdown efficiency was sticky. However, the volume his water got cut off. He got cut off at the knees, only getting 83 targets in 2024. So I think that honestly, Sam Laporta could be a sneaky ad, depending on what your belief is, and if you find yourself saying, "Hey, I'm going to be pretty much priced out of the big two at tight end," you can still get a tremendous value in Sam Laporta, who is clearly going to be a part of the passing game funnel for the Detroit Lions.
Currently going as tight end 4 overall ADP of 65 on Sleeper. So I got that wrong. Excuse me. John Morton was a senior offensive assistant with the Lions during 2023. So not their tight ends coach, but their senior offensive assistant. Just a point of clarification there. But I can fully see the point of Jameson Williams further exploding. If he doesn't have the small 2-game suspension in the middle of the season, we could have an actual oh man, we've got to remember this for next year, or he's going to make us remember it for next year type of accumulation of stats and production that he was able to do last year. But I think he is another sneaky ad. This offense, I mean, it's just going to be great again. It might be kind of a Tampa Bay type situation, which we'll talk about later, where it doesn't really matter the OC. The Jimmies and Joes are out there, and the Jimmies and Joes are out there Jimmying and Joeing all over the place, and they're going to be great.
Man, I think that that's the most pressure point is they still got all the talent. They still got one of the best offensive lines, arguably top 2 in the league. They've still got Jared Goff, their $200 million quarterback, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. All of the pieces are in place. This guy just has to not mess it up.
Agreed. He's got to keep the train on the tracks. A guy who has to get the train back on the tracks is Nick Caley, the new offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. He was the Rams tight end coach and passing game coordinator. So he's got that McVay, the Audu McVay sprayed all over him, which is an odd way to say that. Sorry. But, I mean, just don't do it.
I was like, what? You got to land the plane here. And you
the perfume. He's got the perfume McVay, the Audu McVay, the spray. That's what I'm talking about. The spritz, whatever you want. The spritz.
He's
not
got
the spray.
McVay's aura all over him. That's even crazier.
You know what? just forget I said anything about McVay being all over this guy.
We,
But basically,
we're leaving it in the show though.
His like instructions left by Raheem Morris. Don't do what your predecessor did. Don't have really long developing plays downfield with an offensive line that won't be able to keep CJ Stroud upright. CJ Stroud had an average time to throw of 2.4 seconds, and 2.4 seconds was like league median. It was not like it wasn't a bad number. I think about QB 8 to QB 20, if I'm not mistaken, had 2.4 seconds to throw on average on the season, and he seemed to not have enough time ever. So don't do that. And I don't, but I mean, you also had the Stephon Diggs injury, you had the Tank Dell injury, or him coming back from injury. You had Nico Collins missing the middle of the season. You had Joe Mixon having intermittent time, even though on a per game basis he was RB3 or RB2. This offense should be very good. I think that getting back to the basics, getting the dudes the ball should be his focus. What do you think that he is going to do? Have you done any research about who he is and what his tendencies are?
I've not been able to get into the trenches as far as Nick Caley goes yet. I'm hoping against hope that they really start to move into more of the West Coast like quick game passing concepts that will allow for them to keep the game, like keep CJ Stroud on schedule, give him some layups, give him an easy button. Those are the things that kind of got lost in translation because they did have so much broken play success in 2023 with Tank Dell and Nico Collins just kind of volleying back and forth, and then Nico becoming an Omega level talent. So I'm hoping that they take some of the philosophies of the West Coast offense, of Sean McVay's offense, and they try to get CJ to play on schedule with the thought of getting the ball out of his hands, especially now that they've traded Laramie Tunsil.
Agreed. I mean, he doesn't have. If he has another league average of 2.4 seconds, I think that's going to be a boon. To your point, he's going to have to throw the ball quicker. And just a bit about Nick Caley. He was an offensive assistant for the Pats 2 years that they did win the Super Bowl. And interesting enough to me, he was a grad assistant for the offense under Petrino, whenever Petrino was in Arkansas in 2013. So I think there's a definite possibility that he knows how to coordinate and run a pass game and a pass attack that is very effective, especially for the game of fantasy football. And it's hard to get worse than what we had last year. I mean, right now on Underdog, CJ Stroud is going as QB 17, overall ADP of 127. Would you rather take at this moment in time Trevor Lawrence or CJ Stroud?
Trevor Lawrence easily. I do not I trust and know more about Trevor Lawrence's play caller than I do about CJ Stroud's, and I feel like Trevor Lawrence has reached a point. We're at a breaking point, whereas we're never going to trust him again if he's not good this year. So I tend to like having those scenarios where a guy's got to be good, or we're gonna get you. We're gonna figure out a way to get you up out of here. So I think that I would rather have Trevor Lawrence at this current moment in time.
What about Michael Penix?
Mike, oh yeah, Captain Durag.
Okay, I imagine Justin Fields is automatic.
Yes, because he can run.
Mm-hmm. And Tua.
Oh, give me CJ Stroud. Never Tua.
Okay.
I can't have Kamikaze Tua just tanking my fantasy teams because he decides not to slide. The answer will almost never be Tua ever.
Okay, I'm sorry that we stumbled onto your little bit of quarterback hate there. I guess I had blocked that out from the regular season. I didn't know that was there. Is that just because he tanked Tyreek Hill's value?
He tanked everybody's value. He tanked everybody's value. And he doesn't.
It sounds like there's a little bit of emotion in that response.
He doesn't run. One, I'm a Jalen Waddle denier, so me having to think about somebody associated with Jalen Waddle automatically just pisses me off a little bit. Then you think about like Tua and that whole offense just underperformed. Everybody outside of Devon Achane and Johnny Smith just underperformed drastically. And then you like whenever you're gonna bet on Tua, he does nothing. He's just terrible. So yeah, I never Tua, never ever, not even if there was a fire, not even if Tua's standing in the street and I'm on fire with a bottle of water. He's like, all you gotta do, man, is say I'm decent, say I'm good. I'll be like, no, I will burn to a crisp right here, right now.
Okay, last one: Anthony Richardson or Trevor Lawrence, or excuse me, or CJ Stroud.
CJ.
Anthony. Okay. I think that kind of says everything that it resembles. It mirrors the community's feelings around CJ Stroud exiting 2024, and it will be up to Nick Caley to improve that standing heading into and then concluding 2025. But Grant Udinski, he is now the OC for Jacksonville. He was prior the Minnesota assistant OC. He is also the assistant quarterbacks coach that same year. I don't really care. Liam Cohen's going to call the plays. And now we're to something that actually interests me. Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. You mentioned that it's kind of obvious that they're going to draft a running back. The connection with Ohio State is obviously there with either Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson. Go ahead. Go talk about Chip Kelly for a second.
So what you have is a guy who had early massive success as a play caller, running like a warp. I forget he called it like warp speed when he was with the Eagles, and they ran the most plays, and they were running a play like every 23 seconds, and he had you had LaShawn McCoy post his career high in rushing yards in this system. And then you had DeMarco Murray put up a strong fantasy season. You had Carlos Hyde, I believe, had put up a strong season in this system. But to put numbers to this, his run game ranks in the NFL in his 4 seasons as a head coach and play caller first, 9th, 14th, and 4th. So never outside of the top half of the league in rushing yardage gained as an NFL play caller. Okay. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for I'm pretty excited for how this could work out based on Pete Carroll's philosophy of establishing it and Chip Kelly's ability to establish it as a play caller in the run game.
That's what I really wanted to hammer on, the relationship, the pairing of Pete Carroll with Chip Kelly could be very akin to the Harbaugh, Greg Roman type of pairing where it's like, we want to establish it, and then I'm going to bring in a guy who knows how to establish it. So there's not just the want to. A lot of times that has happened before. That has happened in Washington before when they drafted freaking Darius Geis, and other teams have done it, but for some reason that one really just sticks out in my brain, where teams have just wanted so badly to run the ball, and they're not able to do it. Pete Carroll wants to run the ball, and he's been successful running it. Chip Kelly has also been very successful doing it. So that pairing seems like it would not only be very effective for whoever that they end up drafting, but also effective in keeping attention away from the outside and allowing your receivers in Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers or whoever else they would end up signing or drafting to be great targets for Geno Smith.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just think that, like I said, man, this could be a match made in heaven, man. It could go really poorly, but I don't see it going poorly. It seems like he's grown. Chip Kelly himself has grown from some of his mistakes. So I'm anxious to see how this plays out, and I will be heavily targeting whoever the primary running back is that lands. I don't believe it'll be Raheem Mostert. So I mean, you hit all the points on the head, putting a bow on it. Just trust the run game of a Pete Carroll led offense.
There is. I'm not sure if this is cause for pause, maybe context. I mean, you could say Chip Kelly kind of ran himself out of the league. This offense eventually did not work because it when
It
you
it
when you
it
fail
didn't
in this
work
kind of
though.
system, you fail fast,
It didn't
and
work
that.
because he sucked as a leader of men. It didn't have any. I don't think it had less to do with the system and more to do with like he just sucked at dealing with managing NFL players.
But there's actual data to point out that he is not the same coach, the same style of coach that he was when he was an NFL head coach. Because whenever he was at Ohio State, they were, first off, 7th in total plays in the FBS. Okay. But if you take into account they played 3 extra games than the majority of people, that's one thing. Second in offensive touchdowns, even if you look at a per game basis, they're still awesome. But they were outside the top 50 in plays per game, and they were 30th in yards per game. They were set up for success with a great defense the majority of their games, and it reflects very well on him that they were able to score. But they were not running at the pace that we saw Chip Kelly run his offense last time he was in the NFL. It was effective. I don't mean to detract from that point at all, but it was a slower, more methodical, very effective offense than it was last time we saw him.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Hey, valid point. Valid point. We'll see.
All right. We can move on. I just wanted to throw that out there. It was
I'm
something
not.
that
I
I had
don't. Hey,
heard.
hey, hey. Everything that you said is valid, and I have no reason to try to refute it at this point. I'm just hoping against hope that it works because that makes whoever that running back is super valuable.
Especially versus ADP. No matter who it is, they're going to see Raiders tagged as the team that person belongs to, and they're going to be outside the top 15 at ADP at the position, and that's going to be immensely valuable in what we think is going to be a very good run game. But we can move on. Josh McDaniels. Every 3 years, he is contractually obligated to sign a new contract with the New England Patriots. He has a failed stint with the Raiders as a head coach, with the Colts as never mind. And the Broncos as a failed head coach. So is this the newest iteration of an OC who is tied to a generational quarterback, can only succeed with that generational quarterback, or with when he's tied to Vrabel in the building, he just kind of feels the aura of the Patriot way, and he suddenly remembers how to call
Two
plays?
things can be true. Well, I do believe that there is some validity to him just only really having success as as the coach or the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. I think that he can have some success. I've listened to some things that Brandon Marshall and some of the guys with the Broncos said about him, and he does have a good mind for football. It's not like he's coked out of his mind like Adam Gase was, or just completely, writing love notes to Aaron Rodgers to keep his job like Nathaniel Hackett. I think there's a whole lot of football in him, and I think that's going to bear itself out. Especially now that he's back close to home base in New England. I think that there's a potential for this to be everybody involved in this offense to be of value in fantasy drafts because people will see the fact that he's not tied to Tom Brady anymore and say, "Oh yeah, fade the New England offense because they have Josh McDaniels." Whereas we've seen Drake Maye display a pretty prominent rushing floor. We just need to get him a viable weapon. The booty warrior, Kayshon Boutte, may not be it. I don't know what they're doing with Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry. I mean, so there's a lot of questions there, and we know uncertainty creates some value. One thing that has been for certain in the past about Josh McDaniels is the slot receiver does always have value in that offense, and along with that, pass catching running backs, hello Antonio Gibson, could have value. But as I mentioned before, one thing Mike Vrabel does not tolerate is running backs who put the ball on the ground. So we'll have to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, with Josh McDaniels, excuse me. It is odd that his only success has been in the building with New England, tied to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Now neither are there, and it's also odd that Josh McDaniels has succeeded with different players receiving the football as far as like your receiving options, your guys on the ground, your offensive line combinations. He had James White have an RB1 year. You pointed out that Antonio Gibson could be a steal in this draft, especially with Ramondre Stevenson's inability to hold on to the football through the first part of his career. And the problem is Antonio Gibson also has that problem. So we might run into a situation where it's a third string running back that we don't even know his name yet is the one who actually receives the majority of this work. And like a Damian Harris, like he wasn't valuable until both Sony Michel and I can't remember the other starting running back's name, but until they both went out. And that could happen here as well. I think the one good thing that I have seen that I can say about Josh McDaniels is his offenses have kind of been chameleons. They've been able to adjust. They've been able to utilize different pieces. It hasn't been hinged on anyone else besides Tom Brady and Belichick. So he's experienced a lot of success here. I am obviously I have a tempered expectation, especially as a Pats fan. But I like the call of the Gibson value, or at least value at the running back position and at the slot for sure. But moving forward, we've got Klint Kubiak being signed on as the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator. I mean, he was a Saints pass game coordinator last year. They have better pass catchers in Seattle now than they did in New Orleans. I think that at this point in his career, when he's healthy, Kenneth Walker is a better running back than Alvin Kamara. Charbonnet is a very capable pass-catching running back. JSN, Cooper Kupp, we already kind of broke down our love for them, or at least our expectations for them last episode. Give them Klint Kubiak as an offensive coordinator. And again, we're still predicating all of what we want to happen in Seattle on the offensive line. What would you say to that?
I think that, yeah, if we can get just league average play from the offensive line, all of these guys are going to be a tremendous value in your fantasy drafts and have a really strong chance to outperform ADP. Obviously, we said on last episode, Cooper Kupp could have an Adam Thielen type career arc where he has a very, very strong push to start the season, or he could push and finish the season really strongly. That would bump him up into 2025. He's got a 3-year deal, so we've got time for him to continue to ball out. I mean, he's back in his home state. He is from the Seattle area, so we could see him this homecoming be more than just, a coronation to his career. This could be very valuable, but it all hinges on the offensive line. If that offensive line is as bad as it was during stretches last year, and if you don't believe me about how bad it is, just type in Geno Smith on Twitter and then watch some of the pockets that he's throwing from and some of the throws that he's making, and you'll see what I mean by how this could go very poorly very quickly.
Yes, and I think that along with the offensive line argument, and it is a very strong argument, there's an individual narrative to be made around each of these players that is extremely negative. Cooper Kupp hasn't stayed healthy aside from 1 year where he was a Triple Crown winner, and then I think a wide receiver 10-year 6 years ago. Still, a long in tooth veteran, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. No one views him as a wide receiver 1. They think it was a fluke, that it was just a poof and it's gone. Sam Darnold, okay, well, that was great, but he was with Kevin O'Connell, so who is he actually? Kenneth Walker can't stay healthy. Zach Charbonnet is not good enough to even knock out Kenneth Walker, so how good is he actually? Like, there is a lot of arguments against each of the skill position players that matter for fantasy, and like you say, all of those can be, like, if you have belief in a player in this offense, you can get them at a steal in this draft, in my opinion. Not even in my opinion. We can just go ahead. Let's look it up. I mean, at QB, we're looking at Sam Darnold being drafted. Where is he at here? QB 28. The prior QB 9 to 7, depending on your scoring format, is being drafted at QB 28 after receiving Jaxon Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp as receiving options. At the running back position, Kenneth Walker is being drafted at RB 19. On a points per game basis, he was an RB 1 the first 3 years of his career. And at the wide receiver position, let's look at what I guess Cooper Kupp's wouldn't have caught up to to his. That's interesting. Cooper Kupp hasn't caught up to his deal yet, but Jackson Smith-Njigba is being drafted at the wide receiver 13 right now. He is
aggressive. That's very
that
aggressive.
is a lot. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in JSN, and I'm thinking back at the second, top of the third. That's pretty steep in my mind.
Yeah, that's really tough. I mean, we do have Jackson Smith-Njigba, who did run the most routes from the slot in 2024. Over 700 slot snaps in 2024, 74.3% rate in the slot. So I, we're trying to piece together as analysts what that pairing is going to look like. And again, we don't really have any clarity because of the fact that there's just so many questions about the offensive line. We believe in Klint Kubiak. We believe in the talent of JSN. We've seen the breakout. We've seen Kenneth Walker break out. We've seen what he is on a per game basis when he's healthy. We've seen what Zach Charbonnet can do when he gets the backfield to himself. And if this offensive line is just league average, I think that this is going to be a really good offense. But can it get to league average? That's the $1 million question for me.
Cooper Kupp currently going as wide receiver 47. Instant amongst these options: Khalil Shakir, Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden, and Jalen McMillan. That's smash. That's smash Cooper Kupp for me.
I would take Egbuka. I would take Khalil Shakir. I would take Egbuka and Khalil Shakir. Maybe Matthew Golden, depending on the landing spot.
Okay, I understand it. I understand the hesitation. But at the final offensive coordinator change, we've got Josh Grizzard in Tampa Bay replacing Liam Cohen. He was the Bucs passing game coordinator. The Bucs passing game was fantastic this year. I'm not sure how much of that he was actually responsible for, and how much of it was just Baker slinging it, and how much of it was Liam Cohen's actual design of the offense. But Baker was fantastic with Grizzard as the passing game coordinator. So, okay, let's go forward with this. How does this affect how we think about Godwin, McMillan, Evans, and Baker Mayfield?
Something that I mentioned on another show. I think that the biggest thing here is like we mentioned in the previous episode, and I mentioned it before. Continuity, not having to probably not having to learn a bunch of different language, and that guy stepping in and just changing maybe a couple of things philosophically is the biggest thing that gives me confidence that it could be just a seamless transition. Now, as far as the options there, I mean, do you now have pause about Godwin coming off of having his ankle shaped like an L on your forehead?
I don't know why the L is on my forehead, first off, but second off, Godwin has already come back from catastrophic injury.
I'm sorry you're not old.
Well, I don't like Shrek, so I don't care for that song even. Yeah, so it is what it is. I know the song and the reference, but I was trying to move on from it. Godwin has come back from catastrophic injury with the ACL, and this is a arguably less catastrophic injury. He was videoed, and they lip read his comment to his PT as he was being carted off the field, as he said, "Time to get back to work." And I think that's it. Like, I love Jalen McMillan. I thought he was fantastic to end the season. I think there are guys who just catch touchdowns. They have a nose for the end zone. Jordan Addison's one of those guys. We'll talk about him in a few months. I think Jalen McMillan is one of those guys, and he was not relevant until Chris Godwin left. And Chris Godwin was a wide receiver 1 while he was on the field last year. Coming back from an ankle dislocation, I don't know what that recovery looks like, but I think if you can come back from an ACL injury, you can come back from an ankle dislocation, And I think that we're looking at a back end to mid wide receiver 2 here with top end wide receiver 2 upside.
I think so. I mean, I think that's kind of the floor. If you're going to guarantee him, 130 targets again. I think it's kind of the floor. We unlocked Godwin. We re-unlocked Godwin in 2024 with his slot usage, and now with that deal, essentially, more or less guaranteeing that he finishes out his prime in Tampa Bay. I think that, yeah, he's going to be a tremendous value because of the fact that people are going to doubt whether or not he's going to come back and be as strong as he was as an option. Is he top 5 through 7 weeks again? Maybe, probably not. But if he's top 10, he's well outside the top 10 receivers in ADP. So you're getting a tremendous value there.
Agreed. Like the value is undeniable. And you have a note in here, continuity. The continuity of, it's a new offensive coordinator for Baker. I think he's had 8 different offensive coordinators in his NFL career. The only continuity that Baker knows is change. And but you're giving him a guy that was here in the building with Liam Cohen every week, preparing and scheming for each of these defenses with the same game plan. I think this is a reroll. I think that this could be the third year in a row that we see Baker go for 4,028 plus, and that just means great things for this entire offense. That's great things for Rachaad White and Bucky on the ground. That's great things for Godwin and Evans through the air. And I'll tell you what, I think the Ottenheimer might drop again.
The Ottenheimer's definitely going to drop, and I'm comfortable with that drop. I have a brand. There's only a big 4 at tight end now.
Okay, that's fair. But with that, we have gone through the offensive coordinator changes. Thank you all very much for listening, liking, downloading, subscribing, rating, reviewing. It does help us. It does help boost our viewership. Thank you all for doing that. You can go ahead and follow us on socials at TwoGuysOnePodFF on TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, and on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. Got it right that time, even though I stuttered. We are, I am Brick316, and Justin is Chev90 over there. Thank you all very much for listening. Have a great night.
Also, if you would be so kind to, before we get out of here, if you would be so kind to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you consume our podcast, leaving us a 5-star review. If you show us or DM either one of us or tag us on social media showing us that you did leave us a 5-star review, we will do a free roster review of your dynasty or fantasy team. So that is 1 per review. So make sure you pick a team that you really care about. I am the legendary ball knower. We are 2 Guys, 1 Podcast. We're looking to continue growing, and we love the fact that you are growing with us. So thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.